各位朋友们好。上一次呢，咱们讲到关于投资健康，那么住房是很重要。上次咱们主要讲了
Last time we discussed investing in health, and housing is very important. Last time we mainly covered the first choice in housing, 相可 the larger environment. Yes, the larger environment. Choosing the larger environment is the most important. What comes next is also important. This is the house itself. It also involves the small environment and the house quality, the building materials used, whether it leaks water or not. These factors are actually very important. Before you explain this, I have a question to ask. When we buy a home, is it better to buy a new one or an old one? This is an excellent question. Let me ask. First, 相可, I think it's like when we buy clothes. We all like to buy new ones, right? We also like to buy new cars, right? Isn't it that new things haven't been used before? So their conditions is better preserved and they last longer. New things are also more fashionable. I feel intuitively that buying new seems better. But I don't fully agree. Last time, Master told us the environment is very important. We want to be in a healthy, safe environment, a school district neighborhood. The houses here are expensive, and the new ones cost even more. I believe buying an older house is a good neighborhood, offers excellent value, and isn't costly. However, if we buy an older house, we will need to spend a lot on repairs. For example, if a water pipe breaks, the AC breaking, would the total repair cost be roughly the same? I have to make a decision after all. The basic conditions it offers are quite good. But with a new house, you feel like repairs won't be necessary, but you can't be sure if something will break after you move in, or if issues will occur. Then you might need to fix them yourself. New houses often come with more advanced features. Like smart home technologies, there's charging stations available for electric cars, and older buildings lack this convenience. New homes also include swimming pools and tennis courts, spacious lobbies, and luxurious elevators too. Yes, exactly. All this money is yours. Say the swimming pool. As my friend said, living there is certainly pleasant, but in the end, they only swim twice a year. They didn't use the tennis court even once. I think that's just a waste of money. I believe if I lived there, I would make use of it. That's reasonable. All right. If you use it, then that's worth it. Master, just look at us. We still have this kind of disagreement. Let the master decide. Master, please give us some advice. What kind of house is better? Is it better to buy a new house or an old house? I think I'll start by sharing my feelings and then my analysis for everyone to compare. Okay? First, let's make a comparison. They are all relatively safe areas with clean, unpolluted air. Within these similarly good areas, should you choose new or old? That is the question. Like Xiangke says, some people when purchasing their first home, they want to buy a new one. This is understandable. Everything is new. The decor is new. The entire community is even brand new. Even the roads are new. Older housing often lacks amenities, like swimming pools and activity centers. Yes, and even full-featured gyms, which might be found in new small communities or inside very large buildings. Many older communities lack these facilities. Still, having or not having them both have pros and cons. Just as I heard Jason mention earlier, I know many people, for example, in this community. You have never swum in the pool. You have never played in the tennis court, right? You have never rented the barbecue area. Yes, really. But you have paid the price. The management fees every month. There is another issue with new houses. For example, whether it's called square meters or square feet when buying. Let's say I bought one, usually it's just a typical 3 bedrooms. Apartments, for example, in a high-rise building, the size required is about 1,000 square feet. It can't have 3 small bedrooms like that. But then the problem arises. The new house, you bought 1,000 square feet expecting 3 bedrooms. But in reality, you don't actually have that much space in the new house. You paid for 1,000 square feet, but the usable areas is only 600 square feet. The remaining space is all shared public areas, like swimming pools, corridors, gardens, and so on. There are even more useless balconies, but they're all counted as part of the house, which is useless. Your actual living space is almost 600 square feet, right? So that's about 40%, a 60-40 split. This is called common or communal areas. Yes, that's how it is. Whether it concerns you or not, that's roughly it. But what about older buildings? The older the buildings, the less common areas it has. You get more usable space for yourself. Buildings from 30 years ago, those integrated high-rise built in Canada. Regarding their space, if you bought 1,000 square feet back then, your actual living areas would be at least 950 square feet. Nearly the full 1,000 square feet with little to no deductions. But nowadays, many attractive amenities are included, such as recreational entertainments and fitness facilities. The cost is ultimately passed on to each buyer. So you think you bought 1,000 square feet and that you got 1,000 square feet. But in reality, you only receive 600 square feet. A 40% reduction has been applied. You originally planned on a 3-bedroom apartment, but it turned into a 2-bedroom. Just think about that. Moreover, the living room is particularly small. It feels very cramped. This is simply not cost-effective for you. There's one more thing you haven't considered, something many people overlook. An old house actually has a major advantage. What is it? You know the answer. Whether it's detached villa or high-rise building, there's one critical safety issue to consider. A hidden risk is whether the house is safe. What determines a house's basic safety? 2 main factors matter. One is whether the house structure is unsafe. For example, it might collapse while you live in it. That's a structural problem, right? The second issue is fire safety. It's prone to catching fire. Both problems are serious, life-threatening concerns. So is the building structure safe? There are signs you can check for this. You need to examine the flatness of the foundations. If the foundation is stable and the house resists fire, that's basically safe. Because soil conditions varies by country, district, and each community is different. For example, if I'm at a football field, such a large area, and want to develop real estate, the underground conditions at each end might differ. For example, 5 meters down on the right side is solid rock, a huge boulder. This makes the foundation more stable. But on my left side, 100 meters away, when drilling down in that area, even 500 meters is still soil. That is possible. It's very soft, just soft soil. So what about the government? For ground that's either rock or soft, there are specific construction methods and requirements to address their weaknesses. This is a solvable issue, right? Yes. It completely depends on the company's credibility, whether they want to do a good job and whether they want to build a century-old business. Anyone who aims to create a lasting company must build a reputation. Building a reputation is about style, brand, and quality. I'd rather forgo profit on this building, but I must ensure it's built solidly and safely. However, some businessmen and builders, they build just to make money. If they use lots of cement, say pouring at 5,000 tons, just the foundation costs 10 million, right? Building the cost costs another 10 million. After building and selling, I don't make a profit. Yes, I don't want to save costs. Yes, after all, it's buried underground. No one can see it, right? Master, about the foundation issues, it's very important for both new and old houses. Why is it that when we choose new or old houses, Master highlighted this point. Usually, foundations issues are clearly visible. This generally takes 8 to 10 years to show. Immediately after constructions, problems may not be obvious. At least 3 years of testings are required. After 3, 5, 7, 9, or 10 years, these problems will begin to appear. If you're purchasing new, you won't notice this sign. The building is only 1 to 3 years old. These issues haven't arisen yet because it still has solid foundational support. Over time, with tectonic shifts and occasional earthquakes, the shaking and pressure takes their toll. Problems only appear when they are meant to. Alright, Master, I thought of another question. I think this is about problem that might arise with new houses. I have never bought a house myself, but about 10 years ago, my father bought an apartment. Then our entire family moved in. It was a newly built brand new building, and we bought a ground floor unit, a home on the first floor. The building passed inspection and looked fine. Everything seems perfect. But after living there for less than 6 months, one day, in the kitchen area, something began to happen. At the moment, the kitchen started to water was dripping down. The kitchen ceiling was leaking water downwards. They investigated and said the leak was upstairs, at the sewage pipe. Oh my God, this made me wonder if new homes have this risk too. These leaks were never inspected. Some problems only appear after you start living there. So even if it looks brand new, it doesn't mean all functions work properly. It doesn't mean it's easy to use. You only find out after living in it. If it's a brand new building, no one has used water and no one has flushed a toilet, right? You wouldn't know if the toilet clogs or if there are any leaks. It's true that no pressure testing was done. A house structure isn't as precise as a computer, but it serves many functions. Then you say the rain was so heavy, water seeped everywhere. You say it's hard to keep an entire building leak-free, and that's true. Not easy at all. People live inside using water in many ways. Yes, from washing vegetables and cooking to use the toilet and showering. So making it leak-free is very difficult. So yes, these are two issues. Leaks and the foundations are critical to our health. The safety of the house is also very important. So it's not just about buying a cheaper second-hand house. It's not just economical. Most importantly, it's about safety and health. Alright, thank you. Master, I understand now. When choosing between a new and an old house, the key is having the time to inspect and consider safety and health factor. Such a second-hand house is still worth considering. It's very good. More worthwhile. A second-hand house on the right edge, if it's a good one, truly offers great value for money. The house is safe and the price is affordable. The area is larger and the management fees are lower. So it's actually a very good deal. Thank you, Master. Master, I have another question. Some houses have exteriors and colors that just by looking at them, I don't like. Strange shapes, right? But people tell me that the inside is very nice. And so on. Master, should I overcome this dislike of mine or should I buy a house like that? When you actually go to buy a house, this is truly the first step. Earlier, we discussed whether it's better to buy a new or old house, right? Now it's time to choose the house. Yes, at this first step, when you see this house, no matter what dislike you have, don't go any further. First, consider the colors. Second is the shape. Third, related to the shapes are some unchangeable features next to the house. For example, unusually large tree Or if you strongly dislike the color of your neighbor's house, then don't proceed with that house. So when choosing a house, listening to your inner voice is very important. The key is many don't know what their inner voice truly is. Here we are sharing this experience with everyone. You need to consider the house shapes and colors, as well as the nearest large trees and decorations. Also consider how you feel about the closest neighbor. If the feeling is particularly bad, don't look any further. Don't buy it. Remember this. Master, speaking of this oddly shaped building, I recently saw one featured on the news. It's at MIT, a very famous university. Back then, around spring 2004, they opened a new building. The one showed in the picture is called the Status Center. The building was specially designed by a renowned architect, an award-winning architect they hired. They spent $15 million just on design fees. The entire construction cost $300 million, a massive investment. The design is clearly avant-garde. Its overall feel is far from flat. The building is recessed in spots, creating a futuristic atmosphere. But to me, it looks like a collapsing building. Yes, you could say that too. I don't like it at all. It feels like living among ruins. Some people see artistic value. A few like it. Yet, despite its artistry, less than 6 months after opening, various issues emerged. It has an open-air theater, right? The brick walls begin cracking in less than 6 months. Then constant leaks started occurring. Also, ice and snow slide off, blocking the emergency exits and so on. Various problems continued to arise. Since the walls were concave, not flat, snow and water accumulated, clogging drainage and causing cracks. Leaking worsened significantly. And MIT spent about $1.5 million just to repair the leaks. Then in 2007, MIT sued the architect and the architect's firm from that time. Essentially, award-winning architects often end up being careless. The design and construction had serious flaws, making the building difficult to use. It also demanded significant maintenance costs. This is just one example. Although the design was innovative and avant-garde, it wasn't practical. It was inconvenient to use and expensive to repair. Thus, those oddly shaped houses may be less functional than simply box-like ones. Speaking of which, here in Taiwan, I saw on the news another oddly shaped building. It was designed by Italian architect, and it's an apartment building. The apartment is called Taozhu Yingyuan, such a poetic name, very poetic. Yes, Taozhu refers to a figure from the spring and autumn period, the wealthy tycoon Fan Li. Perhaps only millionaires would want to live here. This building was actually designed in 2018. It featured a modern structure resembling the double helix of human DNA. It also incorporates cutting-edge environmental concepts. Trees are planted all over the balconies. There are more than 20,000 trees inside the buildings. People say this mansion is like a living forest. See, doesn't it feel incredible? His innovative ideas and design concepts are truly impressive. However, I believe Taiwanese people especially understand Feng Shui. Since its construction in 2018, 7 years have passed. Only one unit in the entire building has been sold, and it was purchased by the owner himself. He furnished it to be used as a showroom. Over these 7 years, no one else has bought any units in the building. When asked why, the Taiwanese people say it does not conform to the Chinese Feng Shui principle. This building twists and turns excessively. Living inside feels like your feet never touch the ground. There's no sense of stability whatsoever. It feels so unstable. so no one wants to buy it. As a result, it has become a lonely, vacant building. Isn't that strange? If I were in their shoes, I wouldn't buy it either. I also want to ask the viewers, would you buy this? This kind of twisting and distorted building? Come on, everyone, share your answer. As a young person, driven by curiosity and a spirit of exploration, it's like being afraid of a haunted house, but still stepping into it. So buying a house is different. You actually have to live in it, not just visit it like a haunt. So when you look to buy a house, you want a sense of peace and a feeling of home, a sense of security and happiness. So the house safety itself is very important. But when the building design is too strange, the first effect is that it makes people uneasy, especially the Taoyuan, the house in Taiwan, where everyone lives inside the buildings, and most parts are suspended mid-air. They say half of it is like cookies, and you never know when it might collapse, right? You've lived there, you say. Everyone looks at the pictures of these buildings, wondering which pillars hold it up. It has no pillars, and that's even more unsettling, right? That's why no one dares to buy it. This building, your innovations, no one breathes their life to try out your innovations. The whole family, young and old inside the house, the price is just too high. Really. About this kind of innovations, I'm not against innovations. Many innovations are still sensible, but when your innovations defy the laws of nature, the physical laws of nature, the Earth's gravitational pull, especially in architects, Joe, that's called playing with fire. It means self-destruction. Yes, the risk is great. It's like inviting death. Who would do that? Clearly, I wouldn't pay anyone to bring me death. Riding a roller coaster myself is fine. But if I take my grandmother on it, that's a death sentence. No one would spend money buying a dangerous house. I have a question. It's about the spiral that we mentioned. If I want to help the builder and developer sell those houses, how could we fix so people will buy them? Selling those houses as they are impossible. But if you want to fix it, there's only one way. What is it? Demolish and rebuild them. Oh my God. Because as it stands now, there's no other solutions. Adding pillars under each unit, that would ruin the entire buildings, right? But if stay like this, who would dare to live there? Indeed, no one is buying anymore. Master, earlier we saw some designs that were most extreme, right? We also saw some houses that weren't square. Some were oval or triangular. Are these kind of buildings also not very good? Anyway, I wouldn't choose them. You are still focused on the house shapes. I mean, many house shapes. If you look odd and don't fit your aesthetics, then don't pick them. Yes, okay. That's what the master says. If the color or shapes makes you uncomfortable, just don't buy it. There's no need to even look inside. Leaks or foundations issues don't even matter. Just reject it outright. Move on immediately. Talking about colors from earlier, especially in North America and Europe, many people paint their small houses in various colors. Some looks quite nice, but different colors definitely carries different meanings. According to Chinese yin-yang and the five elements theory, different colors also link to your health. When a house is painted in a certain way, you seldom see such colors or buildings or homes. If the color defies typical visual norms, what is the home owners trying to achieve? They want to draw attention and stand out. Consider this. There are usual exterior colors of a typical house facade. Generally, it's not bright yellow, right? No. No bright green, right? No. Not very yellow, right? No. Nothing too glaring, I would say. There is a color called cement color, which is a kind of grayish-black gray. The second common color is an earthy color, the color of soil, or white. There's a bit of beige. Today, I've also seen many types of building materials. Some have a slight blue pigment mixed to the gray, but most it is still classified as gray. This type exists as well. Besides that, there is even white or even a whiter shade. For example, white lime wash. In the past, lime wash was used. Now, white paint in common. There are also white ceramic tiles, which are quite common. Some buildings even have white marble cladding. That's true. But a building that is pure white, does it really appear comfortable to the eyes? Pure white can actually be a bit harsh on the eyes. Next, some buildings are painted completely green. That's even more striking. Isn't that meant to be eco-friendly? When we say something is eco-friendly or that food is organic, there's usually a leaf symbol, right? To highlight it's an eco-friendly building, the whole exterior is painted green. Would you want to buy a place like this? It looks uncomfortable. There's also a house painted bright red. Doesn't that remind you of a fire station? If it's a home, would you spend money to buy it? No, definitely not. There's even a more surprising one, pink. Don't girls always say that? Especially little girls say, I like that skirt. I want it in pink. Now you have become an adult woman. You choose a house painted pink on the outside. Fulfilling your princess dreams? Would you buy this house? I wouldn't. 巷口 you are young, so you wouldn't buy it. It's too strange and eye-catching. It also feels unsafe. In Europe, many houses use these colors. They are businesses designed to attract attention, like coffee shops. We have certain rules. For instance, I opened a cafe. The cafe I converted a private home, a residential home, into a cafe. This residential cafe, all the other houses are painted in ordinary, normal colors. For foreigners, the house colors doesn't seem unusual. But to make my cafe stand out among the houses, I painted it, for example, bright green. It's not about Feng Shui. I just want it to be very eye-catching. You can see it at a glance. Among so many houses, you spot a green roof right away. So I've hit to that greenhouse. That's the cafe you mentioned. It's for advertising to attract customers. Some people paint their houses red outside. Others make theirs look like fire stations or something similar. There are many fire departments. You say the fire stations in the US too are red, very red, because red represents blood and fire. Firefighting equipment is usually painted red. This color symbolizes fire. In many homes and offices, fire buckets and extinguishers are commonly found. The color must be bright red to stand out. But if your house exterior is bright red and you are not a fire station, could there be another reason? Usually, choosing an unusual color carries specific meaning. This meaning is not the ordinary, everyday one, but an additional message. So, what's the key point? To attract attention, specifically from those who understand it. So when choosing house color, should we pick unusual one? No. Understand this. Understand this first. Then start being practical. Let me put it this way. If you're about to become a father or mother and you have a baby, a child, right? Do you want a flashy, crazy nightclub lifestyle? Or you want to settle down and raise your child well? Be stable. My home shouldn't attract attention. Only then can I live peacefully. Understand? Understood. Choosing the right color is very important. Thanks to the master, when buying a high-rise home, why is color important? Because the color of a high-rise cannot be changed by a family or occupants, right? Almost no one can change it. If you want to repaint the exterior wall, it costs a lot, and it's basically impossible. So, if the wall color is wrong, and the layout feels off, immediately walk away. Don't buy it. There seems to be another deal breaker, the roof. Generally, in North America, roofs are sloped, which is healthier. They also drain water and snow patter. These are easier to manage, but some have flat roofs. My mentor previously mentioned that flat roofs poses many hidden risks. This idea of flat roofs, actually, we have observed roofs in different countries. Roofs play a crucial role in protecting from wind and rain. However, after surveying various regions worldwide, there are still relatively few countries with flat roofs. For example, in my hometown, my true hometown in Hebei province, China, many roofs are flat. I don't know if it's due to traditions or poverty. Even in houses built during the past decade, especially those built by farmers in my hometown, there are also various options. A pointed roof with tiles on tops, usually ceramics. But when we were kids back home, every house had a flat roof. Its flat roof has a slight slope. If you understand the concept of angles, it is at least 10 degrees. When it rains, the water flows down naturally. No one has to push it. Another example is the Middle East. Some countries in North Africa and the Middle East. That area is desert, with very little rain. Since it rarely rains, the roofs are flat too. But I know they still have a slight slope. So when it occasionally rains or snows, the water can drain away. It must flow downwards. And this flat roof here has a contemporary modern design. I have seen many designs of so-called luxury homes where the flat roofs are completely flat. The eaves are extremely short, right? Yes, they look stylish, especially the roof's edge. It's very short, really short. You get out of the car to open the door, but it takes forever. If it rains, you get drenched. I honestly don't see the point of that. I don't understand why. It was considered cool back then, that protruding eaves even cost more. But this house has no eaves at all. A house without eaves isn't cheap either. But let's talk about the roof first. It's flat again, and it makes as a level flat roof. There's only one reason for that. And that reason actually makes sense. But usually that way was wrong. Until about 100 years ago, people began to use petroleum, right? The residue left from the petroleum is called bitumen. It's the black stuff used for paving roads. After heating and melting the bitumen, mix it with sand and stones. This is used to pave asphalt roads. Asphalt roads are essentially bitumen roads. This material is excellent for paving. Now, if this material is mixed with wool blankets, it is called oil felt. Once the oil felt is sufficiently oiled, the original felt becomes waterproof. Waterproof. It's waterproof. Earlier, I mentioned that roofing felt is this material. It's made of mixing the asphalt with it. It forms a flat surface, like a sheet of paper, like a thin blanket, like a felt blanket. Lay it down and it's waterproof. That's how it works. Once you have this material, especially in developed countries in North America and Europe, they use it to cover roofs. Westerners are very practical about scientific accuracy. Sellers of roofing felt say, my roofing felt, for example, the roofing tiles used in Canada, one tile, how many years do you guarantee? 30 years. They say if I use this to cover the entire roof, the whole sheet is guaranteed for 25 years. They say at worst I replace it every 20 years, but throughout the whole process they overlook one part. When it's extremely cold and also extremely hot, the sun keeps shining here, heating it more and more. This roofing felt also emits gas, either gas or moisture. Some areas originally had about 2 or 3 layers bonded. Some layers have bulged, forming large bubble. For example, my roofs covered 100 square meters in total. After it rains, many drainage channels remain. But the entire roof is flat, with no slope to guide the water flow. Occasionally, some parts of the roofing felt the bulge up. This can cause water to pond in certain areas. This is not how the designer intended to. Properly laid roofing felt stayed flat and even, allowing water to flow off, along with bird droppings, blown in debris like trash and leaves and dust. When this builds up, much water that should drain freely get blocked. This is a design error. The designer placed too much trust on the roofing felt, overlooking the roof's fundamental structure. With roofing felt even a slight slope, around 20 degrees, like many Japanese houses, roofed are not sharply peaked. But some snow still accumulates in the middle. The roof has a slope, which looks simple and honest, right? But there is indeed a slope. At least gravity pushed the water down. Like the Gothic style in Germany, Europe, Gothic roofs are very steep. Wind, rain, and snow drained off naturally. These sharp roofs are meant for quick drainage, to quickly shed snow. Flat roofs can't drain water quickly, nor can they clear snow fast. There is the pressure after snowfall, that's right. People usually think snow is loose and light, right? We have all experienced it. But if a meter of snow piled up on my roof, the water can't drain for almost a month. The snow stays on the roof, and you have heating underneath the roof, right? So near the underside of the roof, the snow melts into water. But the water cannot drain away. It remains soaked there. Yes, it soaked and loosened many of the original adhesives. For example, air conditioning outlets and electrical conduits. These spots become sources of leaks. Our meditation hall has leaked water before because the roof is very flat. When we saw the trash on the roof, we realized that flat roofs make drainage extremely difficult. From now on, we'll never build flat roofs again. It's almost foolish. Foolish to the point some architects insist on flat roofs, fully trusting the rule of the oil felt, thinking it ensures proper drainage. It does not. Rationally, we hope roofs won't be exaggerated, right? But they must have at least a 10-degree slope, so water can drain naturally. That's the most scientific approach. This is a misconception held by some designer. The master said this is a problem flat roofs create. In Pennsylvania, USA, there is a mansion known as a Fallingwater house. Why is it called the Fallingwater Villa? Let's look at the pictures. This not only has many flat roofs, but also swimming pools on the roof. There are waterfalls flowing from one level to the next. These flat roofs of waterfalls, the building even extend across a river or streams. This expresses an artistic harmony with nature. However, this house within less than a year of construction had numerous problems. Within a year, there were 52 leaks. The ceilings even drips water directly, causing mold on the interior wall. All the wooden furniture inside the house rotted because the roof lacking sufficient drainage slopes. As the master said, water kept accumulating on top, then leaked into the walls, causing mold. Besides that, the house also has many skylights. The glass of the skylights and the walls were not sealed tightly, which caused numerous leaks. Although this is a house, the owner invested a lot to purchase and build this villa. He only lived here once. It was the first year after completion, and he stayed briefly during the summer. Later, it became too much trouble. Leaking problems, including mold issues, caused considerable trouble. So the owner donated the villa to a foundation, which transformed it into a tourist attraction. Since then, maintenance costs have added up to millions of dollars. Repairs are still ongoing, still under repair. Until early 2025, this foundation has spent $7 million on extensive repairs to fix the leaks. This is a classic case of aesthetics prioritized over practicality. I think it should no longer be called the Fallingwater house. Renaming it the leaking house would be more accurate. Yes, I believe calling it falling water is fitting. Leaks occurs everywhere. Water always flows downwards, but here, water flows inward. Do you know why they donated it? They simply couldn't tolerate it anymore. Anyone with common sense wouldn't buy it. It's obviously a leaking house truly. They probably spend more on fixing the leaks than on buying the house itself. So many people live in flat-roofed houses. It's truly a hardship inside. So if we buy a house that leaks badly, then we're out of luck, right? Because when we buy a house to live in, it should be a place to enjoy. It should bring us happiness. But instead, we end up caring for it. It becomes becoming its slaves, endlessly busy every day. True house slaves. It's so sad. Earlier, we talked about houses with flat roofs. So it's best to keep a respectful distance. Better not to fix it. Or even better, don't buy it. If unavoidable, many now live in high-rise apartments. The roofs of these buildings are flat. Apartments' roofs are almost always flat. What should we do? Don't live on the top floor. That's where leakage is worse. The top floor has the best view. This is usually the most expensive. I suggest leaving that floor to the chairman himself. When choosing a floor, don't pick the top one. This is good advice. Usually, avoid picking the bottom floor either. That's it. Alright, thank you, Master, for the guidance. Now let's review this with our viewer. Our Master has told us when considering new versus old house, what point to look at and how to weight them, especially regarding the house safety. Old houses have undergone some inspections, which make them a little bit more reassuring. Another point is to avoid house shapes and colors you dislike. Try to avoid flat roofs. If unavoidable, we simply don't buy the top floors. These are two major considerations when purchasing a house. The third key point is the house safety. Safety involves several smaller factors. The most important is the foundation. The Master explained the foundation's importance earlier. I'd like to share an example with you. In Thailand, there was an apartment building. Once built, people rushed to buy the units. But shortly after moving in, they noticed cracks appearing between the ground and the building structure. Some cracks were narrow, while others were wide. The situation was grave. Look, the building and ground seems to be pulling apart. See? Exactly. If you were the owner, you suddenly approached the developer, right? Everyone was frightened. They feared the foundation was sinking. And it was. Finally, the developer admitted it. He had no other choice in the end. He said the foundation had sunk a bit, but he told them not to worry. It wouldn't affect the main structure of the house. Just fill the cracks with cement, paint over it outside, and you can live in it. No problem. However, the owner asked, can a house like this really be lived in? They couldn't get their money back, and it was hard to resell. Such things happened, and cases like this are quite common. So this is the importance of the foundations. It's truly frightening. Next, I want to ask Master to guide us. When we go house hunting, whether it's a new house or old house, what other details should we examine like detectives to choose a house with a solid foundation? Alright, first, when we go to see or buy a house, When we actually stepped outside to view the house, I usually bring certain items to follow a method. There is a 5 words mantra. An observations order is called look. Just use your eyes. The second step is to touch. Feel the house and the walls, the floors. You are inspecting the house and not handling drawers. Sometimes you need to feel when inspecting a house. For instance, whether the walls are damp or dried, or if they feel sticky, right? The third sense is smell. Smelling requires no effort. Your nose detects it naturally. For example, when you enter the house, is there any odor, like a moldy smell, cooking smell, urine scent, or even an unusual smell? These are all important clues. So it's like TCM 4-step diagnosis. Look, listen, ask, feel. The 4 points is lightnings. Use a flashlight. This isn't about photography. Be sure to bring a powerful flashlight. Make sure your flashlight works well and is very bright. A flashlight with a strong beam. The 5th point is taking photos. Nowadays, everyone has a phone. The better your phone's model, the clearer the photos, even in dark rooms. Newer phones handle low light pattern. Photos stay clear. Use at least an iPhone 16 or an iPhone X series model. Your phone works well even in dim lightings. Photos should be clear. Take pictures whenever you notice a problem. Take pictures even if something seems fine. Because after viewing a house, especially a new one, you can't rely on memory alone. After your home, you won't remember every details. If there are issues, you would have documented them. This helps you discuss and reflect on your decisions. Should I buy or not? So remember the 5 words mantra. Let's review it again. Repeat it once more. Look, touch, smell, inspect, and photograph. So what should you bring? For example, a camera phone capable of taking pictures. A flashlight with strong lights. It's best to bring some small tissues or handkerchiefs and some white paper, like facial or hand tissues. In some spots, there are actually water stains. In some areas, you might need to use a piece of white paper to wipe, revealing hidden clues. Master emphasized the importance of smell. He wants to remind viewers not to wear masks when inspecting a property. Before entering the house, at minimum, remove your mask. If you want to continue inspecting inside, please don't wear a mask. Only then can you detect the relevant odor. You understood? For example, when entering a house, you might notice a faint musty smell. Some houses give off a very strong foul odor. In the kitchens, you might detect something rotten. You need to gauge how severe the smell is, correct? If it's too strong, it might not come from kitchen waste. It could signal other problems. All of this is very important. Taking photos, observing, touching, and smelling are essentials. Master, when we look at a house, is there a preferred timing? Yes, usually for your first viewings, you won't visit a house at night. That's usually not possible, right? It's always during the day. Morning or afternoon, both works. Each has its advantages, morning and afternoons, but try to avoid viewing on cloudy days. No cloudy days. Try to avoid cloudy days. Only view on sunny days. Because on cloudy days, it's our sight. Right then, without sunlight, the house darkness, unsuitable for viewing. You can't clearly see what you need to see, so don't view the house on the cloudy days. You can check it outside at night. If you really like this house and have looked inside, you probably checked it during the day. If you feel attracted and want to move forward, make sure to visit several times at night. What should we observe at night? It's all about the atmosphere, whether it feels comfortable or uncomfortable, or if there's a strange vibe. Yes, there are many different feelings to notice. For instance, being here at night or when you visit a house, you might see a group of troublemakers hanging around. Exactly. You didn't notice them during the day, did you? those troublemakers go to school or work during the day. At night, they are here because they live nearby, right? Then come over drinking and causing trouble, which is no good. For many reasons, it's essential to look several times a night. If you feel drawn to the same house during the day, you also need to visit it multiple times. It's best to inspect the house on a sunny day. Considering what we just discussed, we definitely wouldn't choose a flat roof. But if it's a pitch roof, we must also check for leaks. Didn't Xiangke just say that if a house has leakage problems, you should simply avoid the flat roofs altogether? The appearance you see now, including the roof, seems acceptable. So if you are checking for leaks, especially for rains, it's best to inspect the house immediately after it rains. The best time is on the second day. Whether the second or third day, you should be able to see clearly. Alright, let's summarize. The first viewing was on a sunny day. If possible, return on the second or third day after the rains. Focus on checking for leaks. Visit several times at night to get a comprehensive view and assessment. We already know the timing and tools to use. For example, the expert taught us how to inspect the safest foundations. What clues should we look for? Since this relates to the foundations, I mentioned some earlier. First, start by examining. I say all houses, regardless of types except dogs' kennels. All official houses have a foundations and main structure. It all starts from the wall. This formal wall is built from the foundations of your house. About 10 centimeters above the ground level, there is a so-called anti-alkaline light. At the lower ground level, there is a so-called anti-alkaline light at the lower parts of the wall. This anti-alkaline layer features a black line. The black line is a strip coated with asphalt additive. You should carefully inspect it all around. However, many houses differ due to various countries, regions, and different owners. With limited knowledge, people tend to plant numerous flowers and plants around their homes. They sometimes even accumulate clutter and trash. It's alright, you can still see it. Overall, you must be able to see clearly. The entire foundation should be level. There should be no cracks in the foundations. No cracks should be visible on the exterior wall. If you notice cracks on the exterior wall, inspect the foundations beneath those cracks. Look at the loosening or cracks there. This is a way to check. If you find cracks in the foundations below, then examine the walls above the windows for cracks. Check the corners of the windows and the window joints. These are the areas to inspect. Focus on the window area because it is close to the window. When the foundation shifts, the areas around the windows are most likely to crack. Another key spot is the house corner. It's also easily developed cracks because during construction, this corner is treated as a joint between two rooms. It functions as a link connecting separate rooms. The building materials here aren't fully joined, so it's a weak connection point, making cracks most likely to appear there. This is how it should be understood. So you must not be afraid of getting dirty. Girls should not wear skirts when inspecting a house. They should wear pants. Wear pants, yes, that's the proper way. Because you might lean against the garden plants to get a better view. Wearing a short skirt is quite inconvenient. You need to clearly see the entire foundations and understand its alignment from top to bottom. The foundation must be perfectly even. No cracks from top to bottom. This indicates a solid foundation. As the master said, observe this from outside the house. When entering the house, you can also spot any clue related to the foundation. Yes, there are signs inside. If you pay attention, one key thing is to look upward, looking at the corners of the wall. If you see cracks or leaks, either could suggest foundation issues. It's definitely possible. Check out corners of the walls. Every corners and walls must be inspected. Focus especially on interior cracks, particularly wall cracks on the inside. The second key point is to check the base of the wall corners. Wall corners run both upwards and downwards. Inspect around the floor for more other cracks. This includes checking the corners. Look for cracks or raised parts in floors and tiles. These signs are all critical. If you notice water leaks, check both for cracks and for leakage points. They are inspected together. Because the locations checked are the same. When I inspect, I'm not just looking for structural cracks. What about leaks? Leak must be also part of inspections. Within the observations range, there are problems, key issues, right? Whether leaks or cracks, both counts an issue. If the floor is tiled and the foundation moves, causing shifting and twisting, the tiles near corners will crack. You can even see the original tiles and the nearby columns and corners showing vertical movements. For example, if a tile moves upwards, it indicates the foundations have settled downwards. This is clearly visible. The surface is uneven, yes, near doors and windows. Cracks often form the edges of window frames. Cracking occurs easily. Window frames are typically made of wood or aluminium. The entire window frame is made of wood or aluminium, correct? Once the frame is installed in the wall, its edges are sealed with glue or cement. They glue it in place. If small cracks appeared on both sides, it means the window itself isn't the issue. It's an issue of foundation sediment. So you need to go outside and check the foundation like this. Alright, the expert has shared many clues. These clues are both outside and inside the house. Now I want to quiz our viewer. Viewer, look at these pictures. Outside the house and the pictures. What factor could harm the house? For example, water seepage or foundation problems? What other harmful factors might be there? Alright, everyone can share your thoughts. Some viewers mention a tree. They say the tree is too close to the house. And some also say that the swimming pool is too close. The swimming pool master will explain each point to the online friends. Let's review this environment and identify the potential hidden risks to the house. Alright, looking at these diagrams, all indicates hidden risks. Let's examine them one by one. The big tree. Yes, first the big tree. This big tree presents two major problems. The first is the canopy, the branches and leaves above. The canopy may block sunlight. Of course, if you like to relax in the shade, that's a good thing too. But from experience, roofs covered by canopies and leaves are prone to mold. That's the first issue. The second is the fallen leaves in autumn. They can clog your drainage pipes. Yes. Third, because of the clog, for instance, it can block an upper drainage channel. This channel may then cause backflow into some interior walls of the house. This leads to water leaks. Backflow water damage can be worse than a simple leak. The next issue is when tree canopies constantly cover the roof and moistures and rains are frequently, it affects the roof tiles and the areas underneath, including the wood beneath them, causing dampness or mold growth. This is the tree canopy. Now, the roots are even more dangerous. We know the usual rules. If the canopy's diameter is 10 meters, the roots extends about 10 meters as well. The roots visible on the surface may only be 1 or 2 meters long, but underground they have already stretched far, like snakes. If the tree is close to the house, have the roots extended under your house's foundations? The foundation is made of concrete, so roots can't penetrate it. But they can go around it underground, right? Exactly, that soil beneath, whether it's soil or sand. They can still dig in, reaching under your foundations. If the roots are as thin as a scallion, it's usually harmless. But once they grow about 10 centimeters thick, they can crack the concrete of the foundations above. Cracking. Sometimes we actually see sidewalk trees beside the walkway. As these large trees grow, their roots spread laterally. They leave the concrete slabs on the sidewalk, causing crackings and buckling. These roots also crack your foundations. Once cracked, it can cause basement leaks. Groundwater seeps in, the water reaches your basement, When cement cracks and gaps forms, groundwater may flow upwards through this. And if the upper waterproofing isn't done well, water can reach beneath your first floor slabs, so seep into the wall. And this leads to dampness, mold, and decay, causing even more problems. Many house main structural issues, especially foundations problems, are caused by large tree roots near the house. This is a very troublesome matter. So, in principle, I don't recommend planting trees right in front of your house. This is a very unsafe and uneconomical practice. But since we like trees, isn't it better to plant them afar from the house? Well, at least 10 meters away. Some trees shouldn't be planted at all. Even at 15 meters, they might still reach over. Their roots are just too aggressive. Take bamboo, for example. Bamboo looks quite beautiful, right? But can such thin roots spread so far? Its roots spread underground like snakes. For example, if you plant bamboos on 1 acre, its roots can extend over 10 miles. They spread far underground. It grows on its own. Master have a British friend online who faced this problem. He spent £700 buying a detached house, and after a few years, the neighbor's bamboo grew into his walls. Look at this picture. The bamboo grew inside his house. He was a bit shocked. One day, he noticed plants sprouting from his wall, and they kept growing more and more. He said he never planted bamboo, but his neighbor had. Then he realized the bamboo had grown into his bedroom. He began to suspect something was wrong. So, he hired someone to inspect. How did they find out? They dug up the floor and walls, and the sight was truly frightening. They discovered the bamboo rhizomes which had spread out like extensive network reaching deep beneath the ground. Inside the wall, there were also roots of this bamboo. The house inspector told them that if he hadn't found it in time, the wall might have collapsed soon. Your home could be at risk. Fortunately, it was discovered in time. But afterward, solving the problem was very difficult. If roots have already reached your house, don't even think about grass growing inside your home. That's terrifying. It means your house is almost destroyed. It's a serious problem. Basically, avoid planting trees around your house. And if you do, some trees should definitely be avoided. The first is definitely bamboo. Don't plant bamboo, right? So want to guess the next one? The second one is willow tree. Willow tree. Want to know more? Yes, judging by your face, you don't. But yes, okay. The third one is mulberry trees. The leaves are used to raise silkworms. Mulberry leaves also smooth sore throats and reduce inflammations. All very beneficial. But in Chinese, mulberry sounds like morning. The master said both willows and mulberry trees are unlucky. Anything else, Master? We want to hear more. If we keep going, it will be too much. Let me add another. Locust tree, whether front or backyard. Try not to plant this for time. I've noticed many Westerners like to grow climbing vines to cover the wall of their house, like Virginia creeper, also called ivy. It always looks so green, as if wearing a green sweater. See? It's a little scary. Is this good or bad? It depends on how much money you have. If you're a billionaire, just let it climb. First, it can easily damage the wall. Second, it causes leaks. So it's better not to let it climb. If it climbs like this photo, this house would be leaking in countless spots. This is what it looks like. In Chinese, we call it climbing tiger. This climbing tiger plant has tiny claws. These claws secrete a sticky substance when they touch the wall. It clings firmly, even if the surface is smooth, like glass or mirror. It can still hold on and keep climbing upwards. When it finds a small crack, it digs in. You might think it's no problems, like a hair slipping into a tiny crack. But the plant will grow thicker, right? Yes, it grows. A small crack becomes a large crack. It expands. A large crack will let water slip in. See, the problem comes up again. And it spread quickly, growing fast. It can extend several meters in a year. Yes, it damages the house, indeed. So this is unusable. Better not use it. Okay, now we understand. I think a house is a house and plants are plants. There must be some distance between them. They cannot be close, much less climbed onto the house. That big tree in the picture the master showed earlier is nearby, but it grows along the house. There are just some flowers and plants planted there. That's fine. It's not a creeping vine like ivy. Generally, the roots of such plants don't spread very far. But to be safe, you should plant ordinary grass, vegetables, or similar low-growing plants. Try not to plant too close to the house. Avoid planting near your wall because it gets damped. It's damped due to your vegetables or the leaves growing there. If they are not woody plants, it's better to keep some distance between this and your wall. Did we forget to mention between your foundation and the wall, there's an alkaline barrier layer? It's made of asphalt. When you water flowers and plants and leaves touch the wall, water, ground moisture, and alkaline rise up. They move together up to the wall. If this happens for several months, a year, the area lacks sunlight, your wall could become damaged. It's like crossing the alkali barriers and carrying alkali upwards. The underground alkali is completely invisible to the naked eyes. It follows moisture and water. And once it reaches your wall, the wall may eventually rot and develop a large hole. Both bricks and cement will deteriorate and decay. This must be taken seriously. This remains a common misconception about housing. Many believe planting flowers and plants directly against the wall looks very attractive. The best approach is to use small flower pots, ensuring roots do not penetrate the ground. This greatly benefits the house safety. It also helps to keep the flower pot at a distance from the wall. There should be a gap, at least 1 meter between the pots and the wall. Understood? Thank you, Master. Let's examine the content of this image. Returning to the image. Some viewers were just discussing the swimming pool, wondering if it might also pose a safety risk to the home. The swimming pool, as long as it's filled with water, has a concern. Besides the risk of children falling into the pool, the second major issue is the potential for water leakage. If it leaks, it usually indicates a slow leak over many years. Especially, it typically isn't a large flow of water. Imagine filling the pool with water today, and by nightfall, all the water has drained out. At that moment, you'll definitely be alarmed, right? Just call a specialist to repair it. This is actually an easy problem to fix. What's concerning is the slow leak. The water filled in the morning, by evening only half remains. Many people casually believe the sun's heat causes that much evaporation. But the water doesn't actually evaporate that much. In reality, it seeps downwards. The water seeping downwards. Think about who suffers from this. Your own house. Beneath your house is soil, and if the soil is constantly saturated with water, will your foundations have problems? Yes, exactly the case. So it's harmful to the foundations. Therefore, more sensible people consider this home carefully, especially if it's your own villa. Swimming pools generally not regarded as ideal. In any case, when there's too much water beyond fit, excess water usually harms households' prosperity. So it's best not to have such a swimming pool at home. Alright, Master, not only talk about health, but also share this Feng Shui knowledge with everyone. It's not good. Let's talk about the pool leakage. I saw a famous case in the news. It happened in the US in 2021, in Miami, Florida. It's a tourist destination. The apartment building is also by the sea. The building is just 100 meters from the oceans. It's actually a good sea view property. The building has been around for decades. Being by the sea, the area is naturally humid, and it also has high salt content. When it was built, the material used were not of particularly high standard. The concrete was slowly corroded by the sea breeze, and so on. The steel reinforcements inside was exposed, and the steel rebar burst. They rusted. What's even worse is the underground parking level, which is on the same level as the pool. The pool's waterproof layers have aged and been neglected, so water kept seeping in continuously. It was like being constantly soaked. The entire apartment building, its main supporting structure, acts like the foundations. It absorbed the soil beneath it. Exactly, it has been continuously soaked. The concrete reinforced with steel constantly submerged in this water. After years of neglect and long exposure to water, finally, one midnight in 2021, while everyone was asleep, dreaming, half the building suddenly collapsed. It's called a progressive collapse. Terrifying. No escape. In 12 seconds, it crumbled to rubble. 98 lives lost. The continuous corrosions by water caused the entire structure to collapse. Look at the building. Still standing. Isn't there a part that did not collapse? This time, it attracted attention. 10 days after the disaster, the building was demolished by a controlled explosion. It was too dangerous otherwise, because the swimming pool continuously leaked. Water slowly slipped downwards. This is the greatest danger. Yes, because no one pays much attention or care. They always think just evaporated a bit. They simply assume it's evaporated. A bit of water evaporation is normal. The real risk is when you can't see the danger, especially for tall buildings. When one collapses, many lives are lost, and there's no time to escape. So the swimming pool, whether inside or beside a tall buildings or not, or whether next to a regular villa or not, is still unsafe. Okay, got it. Now let's return to the map and see what other factors could pose risk and damage the house. In the far corner, you can see a pile of rotten leaves. Usually when we clean the garden, we collect the rotten leaves and roots. It looks like the owner just piled them in a corner. Over time, they turn into humus. Is this spot at risk? Yes, it is. What's wrong with it? First, the rotten leaves will easily decompose when left there. After it rains, the moisture can't escape. It ferments inside like bread dough rising. After fermentations, you see this piled-up mess. The bottom part rests on the ground, right? The upper part is against the wall. It crosses the alkaline barrier on its own. It traps moisture from these fermentations and possibly corrosive substances. Now, about this pile of material, the bottom part absorbs the ground's moisture and energy, and it decays itself. The top part connects to the wall structure. Please remember, this is the wall of the house. The main supports come from underground, the foundations. Now, between the foundations and the wall, at ground level, about 10 centimeters above the ground, there's this alkaline barrier. This barrier is a black line of tar paper. When you have a pile of decayed leaves or heaps of garbage, it directly connects through the ground. Energy flows between the soil and the wall like this. Living leaves and garbage decays, they produce mold and moisture. These two elements transfer to the wall. The wall absorbs the mold after a week. Mold is very powerful. It can enter wherever air passes through. It can get in. It quickly penetrates inside the wall. Once inside, the wall develops mold. If your wall is made of a wooden structure, the wood insides will mold. It will rot. Then, after 3 years, the wood nearby, the wood inside the wall, will start to decay. If it goes unnoticed and untended, soon half of your wall could be completely rotted. Then danger will come, right? Yes, danger will definitely come. That's how it is. When the masters finished this, I saw a news story very similar to this. It was in 2015 at the University of California, Berkeley, which is also a well-known university. Many students nearby rented apartments. There was a 5-story apartment block made of wood. That day, students were having a birthday party there. 13 young students stood on the balcony, talking and laughing. Suddenly, the balcony gave way. They fell from the 6th floor to the ground. 13 young children. 6 died instantly. 7 were seriously injured. What a tragic event. Why did it happen? And investigations revealed the cause. Because it was a wooden structure, the balcony was supported by wooden beams. These beams extended from the main structure inside the building. They supported the balcony. But the problem was the apartment building also had water leaking through the wall. Then the water pipes inside keep leaking constantly. As a result, several wooden piles rotted. And because a long time has passed, one factor was rot and moisture. Inside, fungi and molds also grew. The wooden piles decayed. That's how it happened. For waterproofing, the wall outside layers has a waterproof coating, but water seeps in through the edges and corners. The external waterproof layer stops moisture from escaping inside, so it remains damp continuously. This caused mold to grow. The mold made the wood rot. When the children stood on it, the pressure was too much and it collapsed immediately. Slow leaks are the most dangerous. Yes. And they are usually hard to detect. You often can't even notice them. Consider that your interior walls are covered with wallpaper and painted over. So unless you look closely, you won't spot any problems with the walls. But I think there are problems. The previous owners probably did not inspect carefully. And this is a school building, right? A bunch of students. Who really cares? So if mold is really inside, the interior wall will start to bubble. But both bubbling and spots can appear. Exactly, colored spots or raised bubbles. That's why such a tragedy occurred. It's truly a structural collapse. The minor leaks and mold are the serious. And it doesn't just cause the building to become unstable. It also impacts health. Mold is extremely harmful to health. In fact, the World Health Organization has classified mold as a group 1 carcinogens. It is 68 times more carcinogenic than arsenic, a cancer-causing agent. My goodness. Besides that, milder effects include asthma, eye irritations, also fatal, deformities that could cause miscarriage. It also affects the nervous system. Yes, it impacts the liver, kidneys, and nervous system. Mold can actually be understood as poison. That's absolutely correct. So mold is a toxin and you must stay away from it. If you find mold inside your house, like in a car unused for 2 to 3 years, when you get in, there's a moldy smell. All of this need to be addressed or it harms your health. Ventilations and sunlight are essential. We usually take it lightly, but there is a case. A 2-year-old British boy whose parents are immigrants. They came from Sudan to the UK, living in social housing. The whole social housing was severely neglected, very damp, and it rained constantly in the UK. Many structures inside had already become moldy. What about this little child? He has been living in this child long term. The wall was covered with black mold. The air was filled with the smell of mold. After moving in, the child began showing symptoms. He kept coughing and struggled to breathe. Later, he even developed a fever. He also became somewhat unconscious. At that time, the parents noticed the conditions and filed complaints. They complained saying that the house had problems that caused the child illness. But the property management ignored them. They probably couldn't afford to move, so they just kept living there. One night, the child suddenly had a high fever, then became unconscious. They rushed the child to the hospital. Despite effort to save him, unfortunately, he passed away. Oh my God, the child died. Yes, he died, a 2-year-old child. The doctor said it was due to mold. Specifically, black mold caused problems in the child respiratory system, which led to his death. So this issue really cannot ignore the problems of mold. Mold is very serious. You're talking about the most severe kind. The kind that can even cause death. I have personally experienced with this as well. For example, sometimes we travel frequently. We stay in hotels. Some hotels aren't maintained properly. Maybe the rooms I stay in had been vacant for many years or unused for 1 or 2 years. For example, if you go to Malaysia, a tropical region, the house might have been empty for at least 6 months. There will be mold inside. When we stay there, it is even possible to get fresh air in the hotel room? The window cannot be opened. There are glass windows, but no openings. There is no way to open them. So natural ventilation is impossible. You must rely on air conditioning recirculations. The air ducts are full of mold, without a doubt. So when you enter that room, you can smell the mold. We all know that. I would sleep there one night and wake up dizzy. The next day, you feel nausea. That's how it is. It irritates the nerves in the brain. It also affects memories and thinking ability. Its impact on the brain nerves is especially severe. It makes your mood very bad and causes overall weakness. So actually, this is all caused by mold. It's the symptoms of infections and poisonings. If you encounter these conditions, sometimes hotels are fully booked due to meeting and such. There are no extra rooms available. You just have to endure this. Now, regarding this mold, its harm to the human body is huge. Actually, many people don't really know this. Often, when staying in a hotel, people worry about ghosts. They are just afraid of ghosts, but they overlook mold. This is a crucial issue. If we are careless, we could buy a house with mold, which leads to big problems. Master, now we understand that leaks increases mold risk. Does this threaten our health and safety? When buying a house, how do we check for leaks? Earlier I said, look, touch, smell, inspect carefully and take photos. How do you spot sign of leakage? First, use a strong flashlight. The flashlights help you see clearly. Secondly, do not wear a mask. You need to smell for any mold. Smell carefully. Usually we inspect the corners. This applies to both the living rooms and the bedroom. Check the corners and doors and windows. Look both up and down. Look up above you. What you see above is called the ceilings. After checking the corners where the wall meets the ceilings, look for any repairs. For instance, a repaired line might indicate a crack. Avoid buying a house with wall cracks. You never know. Cracks often cause leak. Not always. If the wall has a crack, it could indicate a foundation's issues. If there are obvious cracks, the next step is to check for water leaks. Water damage marks are usually visible. Examine those marks closely, like the marks shown in the photos. They are very clear. This is classified as extremely severe. If it reaches this level, the house should be completely avoided. It's moldy. First, this is a serious leak. Second, mold is present. This house is very troublesome. What I mean is, for houses well maintained by previous owners, if there is a water leak and after it leaks, when selling the house, some decorations and repair work will be done to cover the leak stain. They would hire specialists, people who fix houses before selling them, to repaint the areas where leak can occur. For example, if the wall paint is white, they would hold a brush over the water damaged area and apply 2 coats of paint. We use a strong flashlight. You need to change and shift your positions at the angle between you and the wall changes. Use different angles to check for any signs of water leakage. Some say they found no leaks, but notice extra brush strokes with paint applied dry. Those fresh paint marks. If there were no problem, why is the paint here so new? Why repaint it right? Yes, and they only patch a small area. That's where the water leaks, especially near the top areas. This is usually common. Then, at different places, there are other findings. Actually, also at the bottom corners of the wall. For example, down at the wall corners, some walls near the bottom have an extra long strips of board attached. Do you know about the skirting board? Also called baseboard. It's about 10 centimeters wide. Your entire room's wall may have it attached. Some newer walls design don't use this. At the bottom edge, are there any damp stains? Or maybe it's damp right now. So if the wall is damp, its colors will be darker. You need to shine a flashlight repeatedly to compare. It is definitely damp. If you touch inside, it feels wet. This is the wall. Next, as in the photos earlier, the corner of your wall or some sections of the wall has dark spots. When they appear or thicker, they are no longer just spots. It becomes an entire patch of darkened area. Perhaps children misbehave there, running back and forth, rubbing and rub the areas turn black or develop mold spots. If these are mold spots, that's really problematic. It means water has leaked. These are all signs of water leakage. Near the windows, many are wooden. If water has leaked on wooden windows, a certain sign appeared. The windows you use are all painted, right? The paint peels off. The paint will peel. So this window has leaked water more than once. Next, if the floor is wooden flooring, the floor is made of wood, right? If the wooden flooring, the affected areas in this section, these small areas of the floor is lighter in color. For example, most floors have a coffee-like color, but this section is much lighter in color. If you look closely, it may have been water damaged and then dried. The color has faded from the water. That's why it appears lighter. Some floors darken when wet. Most floors are coffee colors. So why does this spot look like this? It has brown sugar added. It's a water leak that hasn't dried yet. The water is still inside. Does wood absorb water? It hasn't drained out. it's still
对，
wet.
那就问题更
So
严
the
重。
problem is even more
这都
serious.
属于漏水的痕迹。
These are all
那还有第
signs
三个
of
问题
water
哈，
leak.
想听吗？
There's a third issue.
原来
Want
铺
to
的
hear?
木板条
Yes, I do.
走形
The
了。
wooden planks originally
你
laid
的木头地
have
板哈都是平平
wraps.
整整的、平
Your
平的
wooden
铺在
floor
地
should
上
be
是吧？
flat
就
and
有那么
level,
几块那个边上
evenly
就翘
laid
起
on
来，
the ground,
翘
right?
起来不平整，
But
这
some
一走
had
嘎吱嘎吱
edges that
响
have
啊。
lifted up.
哎，对，翘起
The
来的，
areas are
这都是漏
uneven
水。
and creak when we walk on.
水泡过才会
水
起
泡
So
过，
those raised
这个
parts
原来的木板就会
result
走
from water
形。
leakage.
所以
Only
这
water
个部分
damage
也很
causes
重要哈，
rasping.
就是木板
Water
翘起来
supplant through,
就
then
是
lose their
有水
shapes.
泡过。
So these issues is also
再接
very
下来还有
important.
呢，
对，
The
还想
wooden
听
board
哈，
想
is
听想
wraps.
听。
比如说门
It has
窗
been
旁
water
边，尤其
damaged.
是窗户的
What comes
边缘
next?
上，
I want
因
to
为
hear
说
more.
窗
You
户是
really
镶
want
在
to
这
hear
个
more?
墙体上，对不对？
For
墙
example,
体的预留
around
里有
doors
窗
and
户的洞，
windows,
完了把窗户呢
especially around the
很
edges
硬
of the
性的、物理
windows.
性的把它塞到这个
Waters
墙
are
体里头来。
recessed into the wall
那么这个
structure,
缝
right?
隙呢，就靠
The
这
wall
前后
has
的
a
材料来
reserve
把它弥补起
opening
来。
for the windows.
最早年的话呢，
Then the
是
window
用
is
一
pressed
些
firmly
轻微
and
的水
physically
泥，
into the wall structure.
还加一种
The
特别材料
gaps
的
are then
腻子，
sealed with filler
油腻
materials.
子啊，就是
In
一
the
个
early
堵不漏
years,
缝的
they
那种
used a
东西
lightweight
那种材料
cement.
现在不
They
用了，
also
现在都用硅
add
胶
a special
啊，就
materials
一个大
called
桶
oil
子，有
putty.
个往
It
里一
was
压
a substance
那个
used to
硅
seal
胶就
leaks.
往上抹就行了，冒
This
出很多
kind
来
of
啊。
material
对，
now
硅
it's
胶干了之
obsolete.
后呢，几乎
Silicone
是
is
透明
used
色的，
instead.
刚抹
It
上去是白
applies
色
from a
的，
large
所以这个
tube
硅胶也
with
叫
a
做乳
press
胶。
inside.
等
You
干了之
spread
后
the
透明
silicone
啊，
upwards.
就是这样的
It
哈。
oozes out
如果有
lot.
颜色的话，就偏
Once
浅
dry,
白色。
it becomes nearly transparent.
那么这个
When
窗户
freshly
边缘
applied,
上，
it's white.
如果漏水的话，
This
它一
silicone
定要
is
往
also
上涂这个
called
胶，对不对？
latex. After
如果这
drying,
个
it
胶
turns
是
transparent
比
like
較
this.
新的胶，
If colored, it has a white
说明刚
tint.
涂过。
对。
If water
可能
leaks
一
at
个
the window
月前
edges,
漏了水
you
之
must
后，
apply
刚
this
涂
silicone
过这个
upwards,
新
right?
胶，说为
If
了
this
卖
sealant
房
is
要
fairly
把这个
new,
胶呢又贴
it means it
又
was
挤了一
recently
遍，
applied.
哎，因为这儿漏水。
Probably about a month
如果窗户
ago,
不漏水，没
it
人
was
想起来
applied
往上涂
following a
胶。
water leak.
对，
They say they
所以这
reapplied
个
the
除了
sealant to
这种
prepare the house for
新胶
sale
的这个部分，
because it was
就是
leaking
漏
here.
水的部分，尤其是窗户
If the
上。
windows weren't
知道
leaking,
了哈。
no one would think to reapply
还有一个
sealants.
哈，到了这
Aside
个
from these
洗
new
手间
sealant
厕所里
areas,
头，
the leaks are mainly
厕所里
around
头
the
是
windows.
一直在用水啊。
Water is
这漏水的
constantly
几率
used
很
inside
高。
the bathroom.
我发现有
So
些
the
厕所漏水
chances of
哈，
leaks are
多年
high.
如果不处理的
I've
话呢，
noticed some
或者有
bathrooms
半
do
年不处
leaks.
理，
If
你
left
会在
untreated
你
for
这个
years
厕
or
所
even
的
just
地
6
板上
months,
某个地
you will
方
find leaks somewhere on the
会
bathroom
出
floor.
现凸起的水晶物，
Crystal
但是和
formations
这个地
will
板
protrude,
死死粘在一起的
but these
水
crystals
晶
are
物，
firmly
就
attached
像
to
一
the
个非常
floor.
缩小的透明的小火
They
山一样，
resemble little
小型的。
transparent mini volcanoes,
顺着这
small
样
in
的一个东
size.
西往它对
Near
应的
such
墙板上
formations,
看，
look up
上
at
面
the
有没有漏水
corresponding
的痕迹。
ceilings. Check for
那
any
这个
signs
水
of
晶物
water
的这个东西
leakage there.
就是你的天花板
These
那个楼
crystal
上往下漏
formations
水，
indicate
漏的时
water
间长
leaking
了，
downwards
因为
from
它要通
upstairs
过这些
through
缝
the
隙哈，
ceilings.
把水滴下来的时
If
候
the
呢，
leaks has been
就是
ongoing for a
含
long
这
time,
个水含有了
because
大
water
量的
passes through these
水
gaps when
泥
it
呀、
drains,
洋灰呀、
it
砖呀、
carries
石头
a
啊，
large amount
还
of
有胶
cement,
这些能量，
mortars, bricks,
这
stones,
等滴
and
下来它
associated
含有的那
materials.
个物质的部分，
When it
就
drips,
成了结
the
晶，
parts containing these
像水晶
substances
一样的
form
结晶
crystal.
体。这种漏
Crystal
水至少
formation
超过
similar
半
to
年没人管，
quartz.
这说明严重，一定要看。
This type of leakage
它经
has
过
been
长久之后，
ignored for at
就
least
形成了
6
类似于
months.
钟乳石水晶库
That
的。
means it's serious
在
and
厕
it
所
needs
里头滴下来的
inspection.
水最容易形成这个，
Over time,
因为
it
含
creates
物质量
formations
极
like
高，
this, like
对，
water, like
所以
crystal
这就是
pillars.
严重漏水。
Water dripping
再
inside
就
the
是马
bathroom
桶，
most
马
commonly
桶
causes.
它不是人
Because
造
the
的，它是
mineral
额外
content is
造出
very
来的，
high.
工厂造出来，
It
安在你厕所
indicates
里，
a
对不对？
serious water leaks.
马桶接触地面的
Next
外在边
is
缘
the
上那个
toilet.
胶有没有新
The
抹？
toilet isn't
那
handmade.
个胶如果
It
新
is
抹了一层，
manufactured
就说
separately
明
in a factory and then installed in your bathroom, right? Check if the new sealant has been applied to the outer edge where the toilet meets the floor. If fresh sealant is there, it means the toilet was either recently replaced or a severe clog was just cleared. This indicates both leakage and blockage issue. They must have been removed the toilet, repainted it, then reinstalled it. After reinstalling, they apply sealant again That's how it's done. Right after masters taught us, we all become detective. Yes, normally we wouldn't notice these details. There is another sign. That's why you need to look, touch, and smell. Inside a leaking house, especially if the leak water isn't drained away, it will be inside the walls or ceilings, or within furniture. The humidity inside the house becomes particularly severe. If the bathroom keeps leaking, you can't even see it, but you notice that the bathroom mirrors is always foggy. So you try wipe it clean with some tissue paper, making it spotless. Then, after half an hour later, you check again. You find that the area you clean has become foggy again. This shows that the moisture problem in this house is severe. Some wooden parts inside may have already started rotting, yet the moisture cannot escape. The previous owner might not have noticed. That's why the humidity here is unusually high. When moisture is heavy and persists, it causes mildew smells and mold. If you detect a mold smell, you should seriously reconsider buying this house. And you see, these problems all stem from leaks. Alright, so now we have learned to check whether the foundation has settled. Check every corner thoroughly for any leaks. This is important because it directly affects our health and safety. In Southeast Asia, I heard there's another common problem: termites. Termites are found not only throughout much of Southeast Asia, but also in the US and Canada. They feed on wood. So they eat the wooden structures inside the house, damaging them and essentially hollowing out your house from within. That's what I mean. Even though many houses today are built with concrete, if termites infest your home, they secrete an acid called formic acid. This formic acid can even corrode reinforced concrete. So if you really have termites in your house, you will severely damage your home. There are serious safety issues. For example, in Malaysia, there is a primary school with a history of over a century. In 2005, a strange incident happens there. A teacher was involved in the event. He was printing documents in the office. When printing halfway though, suddenly, the floor beneath him collapsed. He was on the second floor and fell as the floor collapsed onto the concrete ground on the first floor. The floor had been weakened by termite damage. There was no support at all. He stepped on it and immediately fell through. He died instantly. They say his face was covered in termite. As he passed by, termites from cracks in the wood must have fallen onto his face. Regarding these termites, they say seeing one termite means there's already a whole colony. When I was in Malaysia, I also heard a story about a house infested with termites. The owner had hidden some private cash inside the house. He hid it somewhere in a crack in the wall. Yes, after some time, he took it out to count again. But when he took it out, oh my, all of it had been eaten by termites. Malaysia currency is quite interesting. The 1 and 5 ringgit notes. The smaller denominations are plastic, so termites can't eat them. But the more valuable notes like the 50 and 100 ringgits are made of paper. Termites only eat the high-value notes. You can imagine how heartbroken and angry he was. He was truly devastated, of course. Losing money is bad enough, but the entire house is actually being eaten by termites. It's very frightening. So termites are a global problem. Whether they are ants, wherever there are ants, termites exist too. This applies in both Canada and the United States. Hearing about termites infestations is terrifying. Once termites are present, your house becomes nearly unlivable. So now, we remind everyone, if you see black or white ants in your home, do not try to handle it yourself. Call a professional termite exterminator. Otherwise, you will definitely have to spend money. If not, you won't be able to save your house. So when you find ants, get professional treatment quickly, alright? This also applies when buying a house. It's about inspecting early on. and having everything checked. A home inspector should cover all of this, including termites and similar pests. The inspector's fees cover these too. It's not like a medical examinations where only blood is tested. A house inspection covers the entire property. You must inspect everything you can think of. The cost is justified. Therefore, hire a professional home inspector. Only after thorough inspections and deciding to buy and feeling completely satisfied should you say, I'll buy it. The next step is to conduct the home inspections. If issues arise from the inspections, I can opt not to pay. This is part of the contract. Everything is agreed upon. Finally, the home inspector offers a technical guarantee. This is crucial and worth the cost. Yes, they help us oversee things. Exactly. So next, what else do we need to check in this house? We must examine the quality of the building materials. Nowadays, many building materials are no longer solid wood. They are plywood, particle boards, or MDF. These are made from wood scraps, glue, and pressed together. The glue contains large amounts of formaldehyde, and this is very harmful. It may cause health issues. The most serious is cancer. Many people develop leukemia, a blood cancer. It also causes respiratory asthma. It can cause miscarriage and birth defects. This is very serious, extremely serious. So when we buy a house, we must check the building material. A newlywed couple in Taiwan happily purchased a house and moved in. Soon after, the husband began to experience nasal congestions, a running nose, and pain around his nose. He sought medical advice and was diagnosed with some cancer. The wife was pregnant at the time. They were both very happy, but she suffered a miscarriage. At first, they were very puzzled because neither of them drank or smoked, and they lived a very regular, healthy lives. So how could they have contracted this disease? Then, the doctor suspected that the home's furniture might be causing this poisoning. They hired experts to conduct an assessment. And sure enough, it was 4 times above the health standard. So how severely it damaged their health? We must pay close attention to our building materials. This is the wood sections. Actually, in North America, most are villas, with only a few being apartment buildings. Only recently have high-rises being built. For example, in Canada, 6-story buildings are all timber structures. But today, wood structures rarely use solid timber boards. This has declined sharply. Most use board mix of bonding wood, sawdust, with formaldehyde-based additives. We generally call this plywood. Everyone uses it. I observed this in the Vancouver areas. There is a building patterns. For example, in most expensive real estate areas, builders tend to use higher quality materials. Engineered wood contains less of this, but in cheaper areas, the interior buildings materials differed. It's said none of it is real wood. They are all man-made wooden boards. They are all made by gluing wood chips together. This is mainly to cut costs. For example, a plywood sheet costs $4. A natural wood board costs $30. There's a huge difference. So they opt for cheaper materials. So apart from wood, other building materials are used, right? You can't build high-rises entirely from wood. So bricks, our traditional bricks, cement, and steel reinforcement. The master talked about this steel. Can steel affect health? Yes. Steel reinforcement must comply with government regulations that control and limit radioactive substances. Iron contains radioactive substances. It contains a significant amount of cobalt. However, based on identifications, this is the original blue and white material. Cobalt is also present in steel. When iron has high cobalt content, it becomes radioactive. Thus, in many developed countries worldwide, it has long been strictly prohibited. The steel used in this building cannot be said to be completely free of cobalt. The cobalt content must be below a certain safety limit. Only then would avoid producing cobalt radiations harmful to health. In some older steel and older house, the building qualities in Taiwan was actually quite good. But although some houses are sturdy, the steel inside contains cobalt at level exceeding the safety standards. Therefore, you must comply with the government's health standards for steel. They need to be intentionally removed. Nowadays, cobalt content is very low in many high-quality building materials. Master, how do we know this? We can't verify it ourselves. It depends on the developer reputations. Exactly. You can only identify it if it's relatively well known. A larger scale local construction company. What's most concerning is if the construction companies come from another countries and misuses the materials after contracting, because that construction company is just passing through. But your local builders can't run away, especially if they are well known. Speaking of local developers, I found one who is local, but indeed not well known. For an unknown developer, even if their company collapses, they do not suffer significant financial loss. For large developers, many investors' interests are at stake. They want to earn more money and hope their companies will last 100 years or longer. They aim to be long-lasting companies, and so they must prioritize their honor and quality. Such companies are more cautious. They dare not use substandard building materials. Some foreign companies pass through, and the concept of credit varies by country. Certain countries place great emphasis on credit. If the incoming company is reputable, they will also avoid using substandard materials. Locally, it's better to choose relatively large and reputable local companies. That's the safer choice. They must be accountable for their reputations and future growth, so they won't dare misuse materials. Speaking of building materials, fire prevention is equally important. There is a case that illustrates this. A residential building named Grenfell Tower. Originally plain and modest, it was renovated in 2016. Particularly the exterior, which used some complex and ice-catching materials for the cladding. These materials are combustible, not fireproof, flammable. Because the building had this type of outer wall structure and was covered with flammable decorative materials on the outside, a fire eventually broke out. The fire started on the 4th floor. Within just half an hour, the flames rapidly climbed along the outer wall. It quickly spread up to the 24th floor. Yes, the entire building. The building became a chimney with no way out. It caused the tragic deaths of 72 people. I can't even describe it. The flammable materials in the wall layers let flame raise to the roof. That's why the fire safety of new building materials must be taken seriously. Because sometimes some building material sellers and also those who aim to build house cheaply can be found here in Canada as well. You see those villas being built now? The exterior is covered with panels that resemble stone. But in fact, they are a type of chemical plastic. When we lift them, wow, they are twice as light as wood. Very lightweight.
像那个石头一样的那个块，其实是一种化学，像塑料。我们一颠哈，哇，比木板还要轻1倍，特别轻。
Then they claim it's both insulating and bulletproof, but that's complete nonsense. Is that possible? Actually, it inerts at the slightest spark. He built this house to save money. That's how he tricked people. When it comes to building materials, whether for interior or exterior use, you must clearly inquire about what they actually are. From my experience, when real estate agents or salespeople use fancy or tricky terms like compressed English terms such as P2 or H2 and the likes. Ask them to explain in Chinese and clarify. But many get confused and ask, fearing ridiculous for ignorance. And that's exactly how they exploit people. To be blunt, it's just plastic. These flammable materials must never be used for indoors or outdoor decorations. Therefore, I don't like saying you should use wallpaper inside. Try to avoid wallpaper. It's flammable. And exterior materials especially must not be flammable plastic. The master talks about the dangers of building materials, and one of these is asbestos. Asbestos was used in many old houses' wall panels, roofs, tiles, and even insulation layers. It is now banned because it causes serious health risks. Let me show a case. In Australia, there is a city called Wittenoom. Back in 1930, there was a blue asbestos mine there. At that time, asbestos was abundant locally. To save costs, the mining company used asbestos dust to build schools, playgrounds, and more. It's easy to imagine children playing in asbestos dust every day. The miners also returned home after work. They would simply brush off the dust. This dust was everywhere in the house. So these deadly asbestos fibers had always been present in these environments. It wasn't until 1966, after the mine closed, that the medical community confirmed long-term inhalations of asbestos fibers cause mesothelioma. Once asbestos fibers enter the body, the latent periods can last 20 to 40 years. To these days, over 2,000 people there have been killed from disease caused by asbestos. As that numbers keep growing, the air in this town remains poisonous. The Australian government had compelled all residents to evacuate the town. To block access, they have even removed the town names from the map. Asbestos is truly a very hazardous building material. It is classified as a Class 1 carcinogen. When inhaled, its fibers can cause asbestosis and even lung cancer. What exactly does it mean? What is that? Because it affects our internal organs. For example, our lungs and even the abdominal cavities and intestines, which are all covered by a membrane, cause these mesotheliums. And this is a cancer that developed on these membranes. It is especially difficult to treat and has a long latency period. This was the first house I bought in Canada, just as the master said. Because of the kids' schooling, I bought it in a good school district. I couldn't afford a new or big one, so I bought an old house over 50 years old. When inspecting the house, we were inexperienced immigrants, but the inspector was very experienced. He told us about the common issues in old houses. He explained what needed to be checked. Upon inspection, unsurprisingly, our insulation was found to be asbestos. He said that asbestos is carcinogenic. So now, it all must be replaced, no exceptions. Later, we hired the renovation team. The entire crew removed all the asbestos. Only then did the house meet the current health standards. That's how it is. Indeed, due to these materials, they were already incorporated into the house, especially when buying second house homes. Ordinary people may struggle to recognize them. You need to hire a professional professional home inspector. Here, asbestos was used as insulations in buildings, which is very common in the past. It looks like lined with a corrugated wavy patterns. That's called asbestos roofing. Inside, the main layer is highly pressure resistant, a durable layer similar to textile materials. That layer is asbestos. When I was a child, I also saw many electrical wirings whose outer layers were woven from asbestos. One layer was a wire, another was a fiber layer, like a wrapping. It forms the outer layers of the electrical wires. It provides insulations, both thermal and electrical. So in the past, over the last several decades, to 1 or 2 centuries, asbestos was a very important building material. Its toxicity and alternatives had to be discovered first. Only after alternatives were found was its toxicity was revealed. That's my opinion. If you buy an old house, you can't just pull open the walls to check. Even if you look, you won't understand. Only professionals conduct checks for asbestos. This must be noted. Otherwise, wall won't be open for asbestos testing. You can't remove asbestos yourself. You must not attempt it. Doing so risks illness as it's unsafe. Professionals are required. In North America, licensed specialists handle this. Removing asbestos is costly, but it must be removed. It is necessary. There is another material in building supplies I want to tell you about. If you build a house in a cold climate, especially when laying the foundations, and if it's a high-rise, construction takes years. There is a hidden risk during that time. Big or small companies all face these weather issues. These problems happen especially in winter. If the temperature drops below 0 Celsius and especially below -5, your water will freeze. You need to turn this lime, which is cement powder, into a sticky porridge-like paste. The water is mixing like kneading dough, turning it into a porridge-like mixture. Then it's poured into properly prepared molds. It became the pillar. It became the beam. But the water actually froze. In such extremely cold conditions, he poured it into the cement powder. Due to the severe cold, it definitely affected the cement, changing the hardness of the solidified material. I saw this when I was a child. A lump of cement made at about -15 degrees Celsius. An experiment my father and others conducted. After 1 month, they struck it with a hammer, and it completely cracked with a snap. It didn't just break into two. It crumbled like a pastry into crumbs. So when it's very cold in winter, if no specific precautions are taken, whether it's the foundations or the columns and beams in the concrete, its strength will be compromised. In Canada, I've heard that reputable developers and builders generally avoid these tasks during cold winters because they know it affects quality. So it's important to choose those with a good reputation. Only then will they follow proper rules and work correctly. That way, the quality improves. Today in construction, this applies mainly to concrete work. When pouring concrete in winter, certain precautions are usually taken. Decades ago in China, during winter constructions, salt was added to the water when making cement. The salt prevents the water from freezing. This is an anti-freeze method. For small items, work can be done indoors. But for large areas like foundations or big columns, they just can't be covered up. The antifreeze issues becomes a complicated problem. But I believe over time, they must have developed other additives. They added new materials. What I have to say is, if you buy a house, especially in a colder region, you can check with the city government or ask the seller who might tell you when the foundation was poured. If they're honest, they will tell you. If not, you can verify it with the city government. This is because every phase of the projects, especially laying the foundations, requires preliminary approval reports submitted to the city government. Only then can construction begin. That way, you know the exact timing. Ideally, the foundation should not be poured during cold winter. This is very, very important. Otherwise, it will affect the house stability. Yes, all right. Thank you, Master. This is all knowledge about building materials, which is very important. It's about the safety of the house. Just like we mentioned at the start, the house shapes, colors, and overall feel are closely related to the residents. If you don't like it, then don't consider it. A friend of mine from Singapore told me that when they went to see a house, they deliberately brought their child along. They watched to see if the child liked the place. If the child liked it, it meant the house was auspicious and suitable for the family. Master, is this belief trustworthy? Yes, it is reliable. What exactly is the basis for this? Because children, especially under 7 years old, has a soft spot on their head. As the crown of their heads, there's a bone that moves with their heartbeat. This bone is still pulsating. At this young age, children usually have a certain intuition and spirituality. They sense that this place, persons, or situations do not pose any harm to their family, or they truly like it and are willing to engage. For example, if you are still holding the child and you want to set them down, they might resist going to the ground, or they will say, "No, I want to live here." Children don't lie, nor do they read your facial expressions, right? They immediately say, "Mom, I want to leave. I don't like this place." They speak plainly. You shouldn't even consider this house. It just won't do. Children act on intuitions, so what they sense is not always clearly understood. Maybe he saw it, maybe he didn't, but he disliked it. His spirit sends a kind of aversions. That's exactly the message. This is very important because his family might not thrive there. Another online friend shared an interesting insight. They say when visiting a place where they're building a house, they bring a dog along. Is it the same idea as bringing a child? Because this dog owner can read the dog's emotions, whether they like it or not. These dogs get restless as soon as it arrives. He said that's not good, because dog owners can understand their dog's feelings, right? But this dog really enjoys it here. It's excited and happy. It shows a very joyful feelings. That means it senses the energy of this place. It's good for home, because it's your dog after all. Some dogs are more expressive. They find a pole, lift their legs, and even pee. They've already marked this as their territory. That just shows it's a good sign. Good to good, it's really interesting. Yes. There's another saying I've heard: when people inspect home, they look at the surrounding trees, as well as whether the plants are thriving. If the plants grow well, it means the place is prosperous. This relates to the concept of Feng Shui. Usually, people say observe the place is thriving. If you rent a store, you consider if this location is prosperous. From an external view, certain signs indicate whether a place is prosperous. Aside from using dogs or children, dogs and children's liking place had nothing to do with prosperity. It means the place suits your family. But you need to check if the place is a flourishing shops on a thriving street, a place where one can truly prosper. This prosperity is unrelated to anyone else. It depends on the earth energy, specifically the magnetic field here. Our master never taught us about this earth energy. We don't know how to interpret it, but when I explain it, you understand and becomes a Feng Shui master. Take Vancouver as example. It's divided into two main areas, the west side, where the university is, and the east side. You drive from the west side by the oceans and follow the main roads like 41st Street, all the way towards the east side. When you arrive at the east side, you will see that trees can't grow. The trees are stunted and misshaped. That's why houses in the east side tend to be cheaper. Homes there are more affordable. The west side is expensive, really expensive. But even in expensive areas, not every street or place prospers. We say the land's energy is strong. These are good locations. You can tell this at a glance by seeing if the trees are flourishing. This is the most important indicator. Living in a prospering area, even a 60-year-old house is considered auspicious. That's good. That's how it is. People thrive, stay healthy, and live long. Good Feng Shui means the trees grow, and so do I. When you reach a truly haunted house area, you will notice the stone and trees outside. If there's a tree, it always feels strange. It simply feels unpleasant to look at. Looking at the house from outside, just on the surface, you feel you can't accept it. It feels uncomfortable. You wouldn't exactly call it negative energy, but it just feels off. It's a discomfort in your mind. Children become restless and irritable here, right? That means it probably doesn't suit you. Okay, sometimes bad things can happen inside. I realized this. Thank you, Master. Master, I have another question. If we choose an apartment buildings, there are many units on the same floor. I might think that if an elevator is in the middle and the surrounding units are close by, I might avoid choosing those units because it feels somewhat noisy. People come and go near the elevator every day, right? If I avoid the elevator, I should pick the units at the far end of the hallway. The very last one, right? The one at the very end, at the far end of the hallway, is quiet there. Is it all right? Yes, but you know there's a rumor circulating. If you stay in a hotel, you shouldn't book the room at the very end of the hallway. That's a common belief. But when we buy a house, it's to live in, right? So regarding houses, because of this belief, it's best to avoid leaving the last unit. The unit at the very end of the corridor, try to avoid living there. Typically, when we buy a house, living in the corner unit on the top floor has many advantages because it's a corner. For example, one window faces south, another faces east. That's excellent, isn't it? However, from the corridor perspective, that's the end point. Usually, it resembles a T-junction in the road. The longer the corridor, the greater the energy channels. And energy, a qi, that rushes straight towards your home, but there are ways to neutralize it. We will discuss some solution later, including Feng Shui method. Everyone loves this topic, but for this episode, we are not touching on Feng Shui yet. So for now, this problem can still be solved. However, generally, we avoid these units. Okay, thank you, Master, for the reminder. Many apartment buildings nowadays are mixed-use commercial and residential. The lower floors are used for businesses like shopping mall or restaurants, karaoke bars, and similar venues. And people live upstairs. Master, is it better if there are restaurants downstairs? Would that make it more livable and favorable? It depends on your purpose. If your goal is a peaceful and stable life, remember peaceful and stable life. Usually, a household includes both the elderly and children. You want to live in a safer place, right? Without commercial spaces, people treat it like a real home, peaceful and secure. After all, who would destroy their own home? Impossible. At worst, a couple might argue, but you wouldn't damage your home, right? Because other people live in the same building too, right? So everyone loves their home. But if the ground floor is a noodle shops, grocery stores, or barber shops, right? They bring a steady flow of people. How is that convenient for you? When I go downstairs to buy something, it's more convenient to grab a quick bite. But the downside is the large flow of people and the security risk it brings. That's true.
如果底下有餐
If
馆，
there are
会不会容易
restaurant
起火
downstairs,
呀？
is fire a concern?
你从1楼起火的话，
Definitely. If
它
a
难道
fire
不着到
starts on
楼
the
上
first
吗？
floor, won't it
火
spread
往上
upwards?
走，水往下流
Fire
哈。
rises,
对
fire
呀，所以你
rises,
在上
water
头反
flows
而是
down.
吃亏的。
So those upstairs are
还有，
at
如果
a
有餐馆啊什
disadvantage.
么之类的，有没有
If
味道？
used hard to escape.
如果你
If there are
你去
restaurants
参
or
一个
similar,
在
is there a
1 楼
smell?
卖臭
Yes,
豆腐可
and
惨
that
了。
spreads too.
你常年被
And
熏
someone
蒸，
sells stinky tofu on the
啊，
first floor,
对不对？
it's
那
a
空气
nightmare.
本来是好
You
区
have，been
就弄成污染区
steam
了。
all year
对不
round,
对？
really.
再加上有的人喝
The
酒
air
的
was
餐馆，
originally good, but it turned into a
哎，但
polluted
是
zone, right?
你是越到半夜
Additionally,
了，
there are
人喝了酒
restaurants
容
where
易激
people
动，对
drink
不对？又
alcohol,
是打
and
架
as the
呀，
night
反
deepens,
正让
people
你觉
become
得
more restless after
有恐
drinking,
怖的
right?
感觉。
At night, the fights breaks
哎，
out,
如果
and
你这
such
个
causing
楼
fear
也是
and
说，
discomfort.
我现在
Regarding the
住
building,
20楼，
I currently
就
live
说
on the
从
20th
第
floor.
1层
For instance,
到15层，
between the
中
first
间
and
是卡拉
15th
OK，
floor, there's a
我
karaoke.
住楼上
I
头，
live above,
但是我们住的
but we
电
use
梯
a
还不一
different
样，
elevator.
我们是住户另外
Residents
一个
have a
电梯，
separate
还是
safe
安全的。
elevator.
我在我楼上的时候，
When I'm upstairs,
你
the
隔音造成
soundproofing
的
is
哈，
so
我
good
还
that I
听到
can't
他们
even
唱
hear
歌。
them singing. I ask you
嗯，
both,
我问你俩，
do
你
you
觉得
think
这个
this
好
is
吗？
good?
那我也不太喜欢。
No,
那
I
你
don't
如果
like
抽
it
空唱
either.
歌也比较方便。
It's more convenient if you can find time to sing. But those who sing usually do it late at night, and they might be
卡
doing
拉
other things
卡
as
拉
well.
OK 的
Karaoke
有
is
专门唱
specifically
歌
for
的，你像在
singing.
台湾吧哈，
In
很多是
Taiwan,
唱歌的一
there are
栋大楼
buildings
吧，
full of
它是一
karaoke
个个小
rooms,
包间，知道
like
吗？
private
你
boxes.
们这个能唱
Do
到
you
几
know
点？
how late people sing?
他们到
Until
凌晨
dawn.
7点钟才结
Sometimes
束。
7 a.m.
酒
People
量低
start
的11点
getting
半已经喝
drunk
醉了，
by
从那一
11:30.
刻就再也见不到一个清醒
And
的
after
人从那
that,
里出来。
no one
他到
comes
晚
out
上成
sober.
天去泡卡拉 OK 的
Those who
人，
spend
那是
nights
什么
in
样的人？
karaoke bars,
对不对？
are
你
they
惹
the
得
kind
起
you
吗？
want to deal with?
所以安全
Probably
成了问
not.
题。第
So
二个就是
safety
火灾，
becomes a
那么第
concern.
3个灵异
The
事件，
second is fire.
这种屋里头
And
容易出
thirdly,
现灵异事件，这
Paranormal
鬼事件。
occurrence. These types of house tends to have paranormal events,
所以无论
especially
你多
ghost
喜欢唱歌，你
sightings.
可以在家里唱哈。
Therefore,
但是如果
it's
你的
best
楼
to
还
avoid
有你
it.
的前后
No
楼有
matter
这个
how
唱
much
卡
you
拉
enjoy
OK 的，
singing,
会有
you
点
can
麻烦。
sing at home. But if your building and those in front and behind also hold karaoke sessions, it could become troublesome.
很多公寓楼都有游泳池嘛。
Alright, got it, Master. I have another question. If I live in apartment buildings with swimming pools, should I live near the pools?
还是
Maybe the air would be fresher. Is it better to face the pool or not? If
如果
you
是你
can't
避不
avoid
开
it
了哈，
within
你
your
这个社
communities
区之中
or
或者
the
楼上
floors
楼下有
above or
游泳池
below,
哈，
the
你
further
离开
you
越
are,
远
the
越好。
better.
游
Pool
泳池
water
的水
is
是不健
unhealthy.
康的水，
Do you know how
你知
much
道每天
poisons
那
the
个管理员往
managers
里放多少毒药
adds
吗？
daily for disinfections?
请问虫子
Do
喝不喝水
insects
啊？
drink water? They
苍蝇
do.
蚊子喝不喝
Do
水？
flies and mosquitoes drink water?
水中才繁殖呢。
They only
但
breathe
是
in
你是
water.
看不到
But you
苍蝇
won't
蚊
see
子、蝴蝶
flies,
在游泳
mosquito, or
池上空
butterflies
飘，
hovering over the pool.
因为它放出
That's
来是那个
because
气
it
息那
emits
个
an
味道
aura,
已经把
a
它赶跑
smells,
了，
which drives
那
them
是叫
away.
毒药。
This is called poison.
所以你离游泳池，
Being near
你
the
最
pool
沾光的就
means
是吸
you're
毒。
mostly exposed to
但是你
poison.
并不是一个
But
吸
you are
毒分
not
子，
the
对不
drug
对？
user,
你
right?
用你
You
的
use
你
your
耳鼻
eyes,
舌身意在吸毒。
ears, nose, tongues, body,
对，
and mind to
另外离
absorb
水
it.
直近，对
You are
风水
forced
也
to
不好。
absorb poisons. Being close to the pool is bad feng shui. How, Master?
就是动感，
Movements
给你带
means
来很多
dynamic
波动的
energy.
东西，
It causes many
所以
disturbance.
要远离
Stay
水。
away from the pool. All right.
吧，那就
All right.
尽量一个是
If
这
it's
个
about
house
the
的话，
house,
咱们也不买
we
带
won't
游
buy
泳池的
one
了
with
啊
a swimming
公
pool.
寓楼的话，
For
尽
these
量也远
apartment
离这个
blocks,
游泳池
avoid the
哈
pool
对
areas.
水的
Yes, the pool areas.
师傅刚才我们问的这
All
些
right,
问题
Master.
都是
The
网友们
questions
哈
we
问
just
我
asked
问
were
的
all
这些问
submitted
题
by online
希望
viewers.
我们听了师傅
After
今天
hearing
讲
your
的这
insight
些哈
today,
还有
there are
好
still
多问
many
题我们今
questions
天也来
left
不及回
unanswered.
答。
If viewers have
那
housing
今天
related
网友如果
questions
有
and
任
one
何
might
哈这个
advise,
住房的
please
相关问题
provide
的话呢，
detailed
如果
information.
你想让我给你参
For
考一下哈，
example,
你
the
呢
floor
要
plan of the
提供
house.
更多更
If you
细致
don't
的
have
资料。
one, you need to draw draw it,
比如说
right?
房子的那个房型平面图，
Mark the directions.
你如果你没有，你
Mark
得画
north,
出来，是吧？
south,
还有
east,
标上
and
东南
west
西北，每
on
张
every
图都标上
drawing.
东南西北。
Label all doors and windows
你每个房也
and
标
give
上
each
房子
rooms
名字，
a
比如
name.
主人房
For
啊，次
example,
房啊，
master
次房一、次
bedrooms,
房二啊，
secondary
之类的哈
room, 1, secondary room 2, etc. You must label them. In your larger surrounding areas, how far the northern mountain is, whether the nearby river is 1 kilometer or 50 meters, and whether it's large or small. Include hospital, police stations, nursing homes, funeral homes, and cemeteries, along with their distance and directions from your home. I need all of this for reference. If not, I'll only see the room's layout, which is just 1/3 of Feng Shui. True Feng Shui starts with the big picture, the broader area, then the neighborhood, and finally the house structure. Please provide full details so I can offer more accurate and helpful advice. If there are some representative cases, we can discuss them, but we will only conceal your real names and the city you live in. Your personal information will not be disclosed.
但只是把你的真实姓名和你所在的城市给隐藏起来，对，不会暴露你个人讯息。
那师父，您看，就是他每个网友他自己的这些。
Master, it's him. When each online friend raises their issue, it is connected to their own fate or destiny. Do I need to provide my birth date and time? Yes, it's best to provide your birth year, zodiac sign, gender, and even a photo if possible. This helps determine if the house fits your destiny. Everyone's zodiac and destiny elements are different. Based on the 白字 and the 八字 and the 5 elements, a house might suit you, but not someone else. What matters most is whether your destiny aligned with the home. It's not only about Feng Shui, but whether your fate aligns with this house, which is the most important factor. All right. Thank you, Master. Master, this will be a challenging task for you. The viewers are very pleased and everyone is eagerly anticipating it. Next time, we'll cover the home buying guide. When I have time, I will check the conditions of some of your homes. Regarding your house, it is likely very safe and auspicious. Seeing it this way is fine. Sometime though, you may feel that there are some unlucky issues. If you are unsure whether this relates to Feng Shui, please write down your questions. This way, I can provide a more comprehensive and detailed analysis. All right, thank you, Master. We look forward to the next sessions. All right. Thank you all very much. Thank you for your active participations and questions. Please first summarize and organize your questions well, then send them to me. Send your related information and materials to the email address provided. Please make sure to send them to that mailbox. Wishing everyone good health and a long life. Wishing you happiness and joy. See you in the next live stream. Thank you, Master.
小的红点里，人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。我智慧了，我宽容了，我慈悲了，我自在了。